Hi everyone, my name is Johnny and I'm going to be doing a deck profile on a deck that I like. It's Narukami. It's for Cardfight Vanguard. This is for everybody on Team Satisfaction, so Alex, Troy, Omar, I know you guys are watching this. Jacob, get out of here. I'm just kidding. I love you. Alright. So, this Narukami is based on the Eradicator archetype. Came out in set 10, well, set 11 for us. And it's evolved a little bit. I finally got to finals with it today, and it actually did really well after quite a number of changes to how the deck ran. I'm going to start with the starter. Was probably the biggest change. Not that one. It's around here somewhere. That is a draw trigger that you guys just saw. There you are. Biggest change of the deck. Spark Kid Dragoon. I'm going to start with every 0 possible, and while I'm doing that, let me talk about Spark Kid Dragoon. I tried using Ambush Eradicator Chou-ou. I tried using Saishin. Both of those like to retire rear guards, and they're good at retiring rear guards if they can hit. Now, most of the time, people are going to realize what it is, and they're going to block it. And they're going to block it successfully. So, I switched up to one grade 0 that'll actually do the job, one starter, and that would be Spark Kid Dragoon, because he's not an on-hit effect, he doesn't do anything, but if you counterblast one, you put him into the soul, fish out a grade 3. That's all you have to do. Alright, since we got the starter out of the way, I'm going to go over our triggers. I run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I run 6 draw triggers. The reason being because in an Eradicator deck, it doesn't have the hand advantage like, say, Oracle Think Tank or Gold Paladin does. So I run 6. Now you're going to see a lot of draw power, and it turns your hand into something completely massive. So I got 6 draw triggers there. 4 heals, of course. That should be... Unless you're running a 16 crit or a 16 stand, there shouldn't be any reason why you're not running 4 heals. Oh, be aware, it does limit your 10k shield ability. But I don't see that being a big problem in this deck anymore, since I've got a gigantic hand after all that happens. I run the Malevolent Djinns, the plus 3k put in soul. I run 4 of them. I run more of those than I do the Eradicator ones. I've got Pollux here. 6 crit, 6 draw, 4 heal. And that's the way I run this deck. Alright, we're going to go into grade 1s. My grade 1 lineup is pretty simple. But it might confuse people. Even so, I find it effective. It works. Okay, so we're going to start off with the 4 perfect cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are $20 perfect guards, and I don't know why. Probably because they're the only one with Eradicator in it. Yeah, 4. I run 4 perfect cards. Guard, ditch 1, don't hit. Unless you're running against a Daikaiser, and then if he checks a grade 3, you're screwed. 4 Shuki. This used to be 3, but I found out how good a 10k booster is. So I run 4 now. Especially with something like Sweep Command, retire 2, and these are 13k boosters. You can't really get around that too often, and it eats up a lot of people's hands. That's why I run 4 now instead of 3. 2 of the 10k boosters. I think all you really need is 2, because then you start clogging up your hand, you start clogging up your field. On top of that, I also run only 2 of the Demolition Dragon. I know a lot of people like to run 4. And there's a reason why I don't run 4 anymore. It's because of the hand advantage. And the reason why I took out 2 of them is so I can make use of 3 Rising Phoenix. Now, you're probably wondering why so many draw. I promise you, when you're going up against something like Aqua Force, Battle Sisters, you're going to run across against a Gold Paladin, you want that gigantic hand. You're going to want something to defend yourself with. And without these... Without that, with the 8 crit 4 draw, I just wasn't getting it. I was losing too much of a hand. So So that's my grade 1 lineup. 15 grade 1s. Grade 2s. Grade 2 is also fairly straightforward, especially for an Eradicator deck. I maxed out Chou-us. I used to think that maxing out Chou-us was a bit overkill. I don't think so anymore. There have been a lot of times where I've needed a Chou-u at the very last minute and I couldn't draw them because I only had 3. So 4 Chou-us is good. Your field might be a little clogged up because you're running Rising Phoenix and another card I'm about to show you, but for the most part it does the trick. So max out Chou-u, max out the 12k beater, because 12k beater, you just 12k beater. Trust me, 12k beater. I run 2 Deathscythes. So the end for the grade 2s. Now this was by choice. I don't run Zuitans anymore because Zuitan didn't do anything for me. With this card, if you're running the Dragonic Descendant, amazing, because Descendant only counterblasts 1 for his stand effect. You can choose to counterblast 2 but if you're break riding, you really don't need to counterblast that 2, unless you're pressuring for endgame, and then it's just Deathscythe. Deathscythe retires any rear guard that's grade 2 or less. I normally retire the starter or something that's boosting the Vanguard, and that's why Deathscythe's in here. Grade 3s, I maxed out Vowing Swords. This is your break ride. You always want to ride him. That's where Spark Kids comes in. Now his effect is fairly simple. You give 10k to the Vanguard when it gets ridden upon, and then you choose a rear guard in the front row to retire, because Vowing Sword. I run 2 Descendant. There was a restriction in Japan where you can only run 2 Descendant, but really I only have the 2, is probably why I run this. I used to have 4, and then I realized a straight Eradicator Dragonic Descendant deck is without options when it comes to failed attempts at ending the game. His pressure is insane. You counterblast 1. If it doesn't hit, you counterblast 1. You choose 3 Eradicators from your hand, discard it. It gets to stand back up again, gains a crit. And it keeps all the triggers with it. So, I mean, people say like, "Whoa, Raging Form Dragon just came out. I'm going to start playing him." Descendant's not, that doesn't mean Descendant's bad now, just because Raging Form. Raging Form needs another copy in the hand, and if you drive check into it, great, but you don't need to really do anything except keep counterblasts for Dragonic Descendant. He's just that good. Self-standing +1 crit. You don't get that with Raging Form. And finally, the last 2 grade 3s. And I'm very fond of this card. Sweep Command. Now I know probably a lot of you are wondering, what is Sweep Command doing with Dragonic Descendant? That's not right, that's not cool. Well, you go ahead and think about it for a little bit. It adds to the pressure, especially mid-game. Mid-game is where you'll find Sweep Command very helpful. Right into Vowing Sword, retire the rear guards, great, use effect, and then +5k, +10k, pressure, just straight pressure, 31 to 40,000, especially if you have Shuki on your rear guard. That's a 13k booster on top of a 26k Vanguard. The plus draw is another thing that I want to emphasize. You can draw with that LB, and it just beefs up your hand even more. You should be set when you ride this. What I normally like to do is ride into him first, and then descend it later. People might say, "Oh, it's not effective." Well, it worked twice today, so it's the biggest reason why this deck actually worked, is because I actually was able to use both of these in conjunction with each other. It also gave me options. Like if I didn't want to ride into Sweep Command, I'd get Eradicator, Dragonic Descendant. That's a rear guard. Or if I wanted to, I'd use that, retire everything, and then descend it in the back row. So it just gave me options, and that's what Narukami needs, is options, because it doesn't have a straightforward option class. And this is what got me into finals. Apparently, I lost to bad hand. Well, yeah, I lost to a very bad hand in the very last round. Of course, my opponent was playing Revengers. He also had a bad hand, and he didn't even use Revengers Raging Form Dragon's effect once. So all in all, I think I did pretty good. It took out Liberator Garmor deck today. Took out another Narukami deck today, and it took out Link Jokers today. So I think it's pretty effective. Run Spark Kid, because Lynchu's great and all, but because Spark Kid. All right. So this is my build. Rate, comment as you please. And that's the show.